whether it's acne, whether it's, a skin condition, or whether it's periods, right? Or digestive symptoms. I want us all to work on viewing that as this is information. This is my body signaling something is wrong. I was like, I just cannot fathom going in with this type of skin and talking about how I healed my acne. At that time, I would feel like a fraud. I would feel like people would be like, who's this girl who's talking about healing her acne? Like when she can't even heal her own skin and her skin looks like that. Hello, welcome back to another episode of She's in Sync. Today is going to be a vulnerable podcast episode. I may or may not cry during it. And to be honest, this is a podcast I considered recording many, many times within the past couple of weeks. And I didn't have the clarity or the courage to do it. But today, something just clicked in me, and I was like, I need to record this. And I think that so many other women can relate to this. And this is important, an important piece of my story and why I do what I do. But also, I've learned a lot of really important lessons in the past several months that I think are important to share. So, what I'm talking about or referring to is, if you're watching this, my skin looks a lot different than it has in recent podcast episodes, on social media. And that's because several months ago, about 3.5, 4 months ago at this point, I made the decision to start using retinol. And if you know anything about retinol, it comes with purging. And that's a very normal, a very common symptom of using retinol. It's a product that is known for that. And people always say push through the purge and then you'll have clearer skin, you'll have less wrinkles. It's kind of like the gold, the holy grail of skincare for like anti-aging and acne. My skin was looking really, really good. And then I decided to start retinol and it completely demolished my skin. And I am at this point, I've decided to stop retinol. This wasn't the update I was hoping to give. I was really hoping that I could share my retinol journey and be on the other side of it, not in the place that I am today, and to talk about what I learned from a topical lens of, this is how you push through that purge. This is what I did. It's better on the other side. My skin looks so much better. It's worth it. But unfortunately, that is not the case for me. It's something that it was not the right fit for me. And I'm having to do damage control on my skin now. And so that's brought up a lot of emotions and a lot of fear and a lot of PTSD type of feelings. And if you're listening to this and you've never struggled with acne, you're probably listening and you're like, wow, that's dramatic. Like, and I'm not saying that, I'm not comparing what I'm going through with my skin to a different type of trauma. But if you know anything about trauma, it comes in different forms. And there's big T and there's little t traumas. And so I think a lot of people have trauma that it's not necessarily having to be a big T trauma. So I'm not trying to say this is akin to something else that someone's gone through. Having acne for my entire life and then healing it and then having really bad acne again has brought up a lot of stuff for me. And it's been really, really hard for me to navigate, especially as a woman who helps other women clear their skin. And I'm promoting that and I'm marketing that. And my own acne healing journey was a catalyst for starting my business. If you know anything about me and Nourished by Taylor, like that's the whole reason I started my business, was because I suffered from acne my whole entire life. But especially when I stopped birth control cold turkey at 28 years old, I had really horrible breakouts for the next 4 years that no topicals could fix. And I did restrictive diets. I did everything under the sun and nothing moved the needle. So it wasn't until I learned about functional nutrition and got the support and the resources and the training to deeply heal my skin from the inside out, reverse post-birth control syndrome, was able to successfully heal my skin. It wasn't until then that my skin finally cleared up. And looking back at my skin before starting retinol, I wish I had that. It's always like the grass is greener on the other side until you get over there. And then you're like, oh, it's really not that great over here, or it's worse. But looking back, my skin was really good, really, really good. But I was chasing perfectionism. I was chasing perfect skin, which there is no such thing as perfect skin. So I was still having some breakouts here and there, but nothing to the extent of what's going on right now or what happened through my retinol journey. And so at that time, I was like, okay, what can I do better? I'm doing all the deeper internal work. Like maybe there's another topical I can add, and I am about to turn 30. Wait, am I 33? I'm 33 now, so I'm about to turn 34 this upcoming December. And when I record this, this is October. So I'm about to turn 34. So I'm also looking at proactive anti-aging. So when I went to my esthetician, who's an acne certified esthetician, I kind of bop around to different girls in the practice depending on who's available. This esthetician, I told her my routine. She was like, your routine looks great. The one thing you could think about adding is retinol. And I was like, cool, sounds good. This is, if there's any estheticians out there, if you're recommending retinol, I want you to give a disclaimer of the purging, because that is one thing I had no idea that was a thing until it started happening to me. And then I did all this research, and after freaking out about it and not knowing what the heck was going on, to learn that this is a very common experience with retinol. Um, so there was no disclaimer with it. So she just basically was like, this is great for acne, and it's also really great for anti-aging. This is a great thing to add to your routine at night. So I was like, okay, cool. She also didn't tell me how often to use it. So that was the other thing where I just assumed I could use it in combination with my other actives like mandelic, benzoyl peroxide, and like alternate that at night. When in reality, because of how retinol works, you really need to respect it as an ingredient and you need to go slow. And I did not know that. So there could have been more education. Am I blaming her? No. And I think I still would have done it because I would have been like, oh yeah, I can deal with some purging. Like that's fine if I can get to their side. But there wasn't that education that was even a thing, or like what to expect with it. And I think that did play into me continuously pushing through when I should have stopped and when my skin was clearly telling me this is not a product for you. So when I started the retinol, I was sometimes getting some breakouts here and there, but it really wasn't bad. And then I started it, and at first it was fine, but then I started breaking out, and had some flaking around like my chin area, some like little whiteheads. And that's when I started looking it up. And I learned about the retinol uglies, as they're called, retinol purging. And, that's a whole other thing. But I was like, okay, this is normal. But then it kept getting worse. And I started having really inflamed, deep cystic breakouts and inflamed pustules and whiteheads all over. And they were really painful, really, really painful. And they were all over. So, like, my problem area is like my right cheek and my mustache line, which is where I'm breaking out right now. And it was just, I'll show a picture of it, but it was really bad. And for those of you with acne, when you have a breakout, then it comes the hyperpigmentation or the scarring. And so that keeps adding on. So I had all of this hyperpigmentation on my skin, which that made me self-conscious. Plus, then when you got more actives in there, it made it even worse. So I did a lot of chat GPTing. I like reached out to my esthetician, and she was, this was, I think, a problem. Like I was bopping around different people in the same practice. So while they were acne certified, I trust that they're good at what they do. I was getting different answers for what to do. So one told me to stop all my actives, and then later down the road, before I decided to stop the retinol, she was like, you should have been taking your actives. So one lesson I learned is just find someone you trust and stick with what they say versus just finding random things on the internet or doom scrolling, because that just makes things worse and it causes more anxiety because you don't have clear direction. Typically with purging, they say anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks. And then if you talk to some acne estheticians, they'll say 3 months, because that's the life cycle of acne, is it's 3 months. And so I pushed through, and I was like, I'm very determined. And I'm like, if I'm going to start something and if my skin looks this bad, like I want to reap the benefits of this product. So I kept pushing through, and I kept thinking based on what I read, what I saw, like this is a part of the purge. This is normal. But mine didn't get better. It didn't let up week after week. And there was one point where it was really, really bad. And I remember I was supposed to be a guest on a podcast in a couple weeks. And I was like, I just cannot fathom. It was an in person podcast going in with this type of skin and talking about how I healed my acne. I would feel like at that time, and I would lie if I didn't feel like that a little bit right now, but we'll get to that. At that time, I would feel like a fraud. I would feel like people would be like, who's this girl who's talking about healing her acne? Like when she can't even heal her own skin and her skin looks like that. So I stopped retinol for 2 weeks and my skin instantly cleared, minus the pigmentation that it left behind. So I was like, okay, like that's a pretty clear sign that it's from the retinol. But then I was like reading all these things of how you got to push through the purge because then if you restart it, you're going to purge all over again. So I was like, okay, like let me get back on it after I did that podcast interview. Let me keep pushing through it. And it just did not end. It did not end. I gave it the full 3 months, including that 2 week break, and it did not budge. Like it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And so I was with my friends visiting my friends in Oregon, and they were just telling me, they're like, maybe this is a sign from your body. I needed to hear that from them who they're not estheticians, like they're functional nutrition professionals, but they're very in tune with like, okay, they know like our bodies are always communicating with us. They're always telling us something. So they said, maybe this isn't right for your skin. And at that point, I'd been doing it for 3 months, and that's a long time. And going back to the PTSD part of if anyone has not dealt with acne, I don't think I finished this thought, they don't understand how debilitating acne is. It's on your face, it affects your confidence, it hurts. And when you don't have answers, it's just so demoralizing and defeating. And it's something people can see. And it's something where, again, if we're our own worst critics, like you see it. Like even when I went to record this podcast and I logged into this, like I see myself right now. And it's really hard. I had a moment where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I want to put this into the world. But I hit record anyway for the reasons I said earlier. But acne is not just like put makeup on and it's fine. It's truly affects your mental and emotional well-being. And that's why women with acne are desperate to fix it. And I totally get that. And when you have struggled with it for so long, like I said, I've had acne ever since teenage years. It wasn't until the past year that it had gotten better. And so then when that comes back, all that doubt, all that anxiety, all that fear of being back where I was, all the what the heck is happening? What did I do to my skin? I ruined my skin. I should have just not done retinol. All of these thoughts come back. And that's really, really hard. And then you add that layer of imposter syndrome of I'm getting on social media and I'm meeting with clients and my skin looks like this, but I'm talking to them about how to clear their skin. And so I want to talk about that for a second because, again, that's a really scary piece of doing this podcast. And I know that me personally, I respect and I trust, and I would rather work with someone who is honest about their healing journey than someone who just puts a filter on and someone who pretends like everything's perfect when it's not. I really appreciate when other providers who treat women with acne share, hey, I'm having a breakout or I'm having a flare. Like, this is why, this is what I'm doing. It builds trust in me that they are very educated and they know how to deal with this and that they are emotionally intelligent, where they can be very raw, real, and honest. And if that turns someone off listening, then that's okay. Then you're not an ideal person that I want to work with, quite honestly. I mean, to be blunt, I want women who appreciate that. And I want women who respect that versus someone who is looking for a perfect human being, which isn't even a thing. So there's that piece of things. And I was talking to Jared about this. And because that's another thing, it doesn't affect him in our relationship in the way that he feels towards me, but it affects the way my confidence and how I feel in our relationship. I feel ugly. I feel not sexy. I feel like this is something I've been struggling with for a long time. And now and then it resolved and now it's back. And so I feel kind of guilty for talking about this and being upset about this with him. And he told me, and he's very honest. He's like, it's not that bad. Like, you're your own worst critic. When I brought up the imposter syndrome of like, I just feel a certain type of way, like talking about this when like my skin is breaking out. And Jared asked me, he was like, how many women have you helped clear their acne? And I said, quite a bit. Like most of the women that I work with successfully clear their acne. It doesn't always happen in 5 months. Sometimes, it takes longer than that, but quite a few women, like I would say 95% of the women who come to me with acne, we've cleared it. He was like, exactly. And you've cleared your own skin. It's this product that he was like, it's the product that fucked your skin up. And I was like, yes. But then my mind spiraled of like, but what if it's something internal? What if it's something like with my gut or with my labs or something like that? And so I did run labs on myself, and I'll talk about that here in a second as well. But he made a really good point of reminding me that I've done it before and just bringing me down to remind myself, because when you feel helpless, I think that's a good word to describe it, of like feeling helpless, of not knowing what to do when you're having an acne flare or when you're having a painful period or when, digestive issues come back after being in remission for a while, you just go back to, oh shit, I'm back at square one. And that's also something he reminded me of like, you're not back at square one. You have your foundations. Like you've been working for the past year and a half to replete your minerals, to balance your gut, to support your liver and detox. And that's been going well. Like you did have clear skin until you started retinol. And so that was a good reminder when you needed it, because it can be very easy to jump to, what am I doing wrong? Being really self deprecating, or what do I need to do differently? What supplement do I need to add? What test do I need to do? I've seen this in a couple of my clients, which is another reason that I wanted to share this episode and be raw and real about it in my experience, because I've had a couple clients who have come off birth control recently. Their symptoms have been going really, really well, and they've flared up over the past couple weeks. So one of my clients, I have three examples here. One of them is my client who stopped birth control, and she has not gotten a period back yet, despite doing everything right. And it's been a little less than 3 months. So we've been talking about not stressing about that, not stressing about what is happening, because her body, she's been on birth control for 10 plus years. Her body needs time. She's also at the age where perimenopause might be at play. And if you've listened to a couple episodes ago, I talked to Vicky Shahadi, and we talked about what was normal, or what is normal after stopping birth control with your period. And she recommends, and I agree, waiting at least 3 months to let your period level out and your hormones rebalance to figure itself out. And then sometimes you need longer, but then we at least can do some additional testing of like, do we need to do some hormone testing? Do we need to rerun some labs? Like, what do we need to look at? Are we fueling ourselves adequately? How is stress? So I told this client, just for right now, try to not stress about it, because I'm scared that the stress of being stressed about not having a period is going to elongate this and prevent this from coming back, which is going to, it's a vicious cycle. So we are working on monitoring signs for ovulation, like temperature tracking, cervical mucus, et cetera. And then, if we are 3.5, 4 months in, we might look into doing some hormone testing to see if perimenopause is a piece of the puzzle. And then my other clients, kind of similar, but she stopped birth control, got a period right away, wasn't painful. It was the best period of her life, she told me. She got 2 periods, I believe, and they were both really good. She had a history of painful periods, so that was something she was scared about, but they were really good after coming off birth control. And then her 3rd period ghosted her, and it was a longer period of time until she got her next period. Then she eventually got it, and then this cycle, I met with her last week, and then this cycle has been longer as well. And so she keeps getting scared that it's going to ghost her again. And then she's very in tune with her body. All the women I work with are. That's why we were drawn together in this universe, but very in tune with her body. And she was scared of what it meant not having a period. She knew that it increases risk of osteoporosis. She knew that it's a sign that something internally is going on. She has a history of an eating disorder, which is, since been resolved, and she's doing great with that. But she was scared, am I, unconsciously not fueling myself correctly? Like, what's going on? And similar to what I told my other client of like, this is information. let's not stress about this. Let's just see what happens. We're still very new off birth control and you got 2 periods. And that's a really good sign that your body is working. It's just going to take some time to regulate. And if you haven't listened to the episode with Vicky about what to expect with your period after stopping birth control and the healing timeline expectations, or I'm forgetting, I think just healing expectations. I forget. It was either like right after that one or around that one, but I talk about like expectations with healing. So this is kind of an offshoot about of that. It's just more of my story and what I've learned with some, life lessons thrown in there as we will. And then I have one more. Actually, you know what? I'm going to share two more. I don't know if this is too much, but like whatever. I have no notes in front of me for this one too. Like normally I have like an outline of talking points so I don't go rogue or, everything makes sense and I hit on important points. But this one, in the spirit of just sharing my truth, it is what it is. So I want to share two more examples with you guys. The other one is a client who came to me with horrible stomach issues, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, vacillating between those two, trouble sleeping, acne, fatigue, and over the course of a couple years, weight gain. So she went to her doctor. She's 38. Her doctors just dismissed her and said, "You're in perimenopause. You can take some hormones or birth control or just like deal with it. Like there's nothing we can do." So she knew that she wanted deeper answers. So she contacted me. We started working together. She was not in perimenopause. We actually did end up doing hormone testing later on because she's now married and looking to have her first child. So we wanted to verify that she was not in perimenopause or know that information so we could strategically, proactively help with conception. But her gut was a mess. And so we did a lot of work on her gut and her metabolism and her thyroid to heal that. And she lost 10 pounds. She sleeps through the night. Her acne got a lot better. She's no longer fatigued. Everything resolved. And I think I said this, but she lost 10 pounds in a healthy way without any restriction because she also has a history of an eating disorder. So she wanted to be very mindful of not triggering that. And we've been working together for about 8 months now. And she ended up getting shingles, and that put a lot of stress on her body. And then she got married and she's been traveling and there's just been a lot happening. She was put on a steroid for the shingles and just her body was going through a lot. So she messaged me this past week and she was like, "My gas is back, my bloating's back. I'm like really nervous. Like, should I do a low histamine diet? Should I, GI-MAP testing again?" And I told her, I was like, I just basically level set of like, your body's been through a lot. And I wouldn't jump straight to a low histamine diet because we did find her histamine was high. But I was like, I don't personally find that effective. I focus more on what nutrients can we break down histamine with and properly eliminate it and make sure our detox pathways are open for that. That's what I found in clinical practice. And through my education about that, that's been the most effective. And your body has been through a lot, reminding her of that, of like, you've been through a lot, your body is recovering. And it's also normal to sometimes have weird digestive issues. We just have to, again, get curious. What is this telling us? Have we been anxious? There's a huge connection between our gut and our brain. Have we maybe certain foods do flare it a little bit more, and have we been incorporating those? Or have we been, a little bit more lax with, let's say, drinking more alcohol during this season or something like that? Like, are those things at play? So going back to, it's normal for that to sometimes happen. If it becomes a pattern though, that's when we want to take notice and again look deeper of like, okay, like what does this mean versus what are you doing wrong? Let's jump to trying to fix it right away. We want to see a pattern. We want to give our body time. And that's really important. So the last one I want to share is my client who birth control is not a piece of the puzzle. Kind of similar to the last client. She was told, "You're in perimenopause, lots of fatigue, blood sugar dysregulation," just wanted support with that. And so again, we didn't show any indication of perimenopause, but we haven't tested her hormones to confirm that. But she saw a lot of success and a lot of improvement. Oh, her cycles were shorter too. That was the other thing. Both of those last two, this one and the last one, their cycles were shorter. And when we met, we were like, okay, you're under eating a lot. Like you're not making time for yourself. You're prioritizing your job and your kids and not eating enough throughout the day. And she saw a dramatic improvement with incorporating mineral mocktails and with eating consistently throughout the day and balanced blood sugar, balanced meals. So protein, carb, fat. And she messaged me and she was like, my cycles were a normal like length this time. I feel more energized. I'm feeling really, really good. So for a couple months, she was feeling really great. And then we met last week or this week, and she was saying that's all, she's feeling more tired again. Her cycle, actually, I don't think she had had her period yet, but she was just noticing she was not feeling good again. And she was talking to a friend who's an OBGYN at a birthday party, a kid's birthday party she was at. And the friend, she was describing her symptoms, the friend who's an OB recommended black cohosh. And I said, hey, instead of just throwing another supplement in the mix, let's go back to the foundations. What do we know? We know that you haven't been prioritizing your nutrition because she hadn't. She said that she's been, you know, skipping meals and snacks. She's not been grocery shopping to get balanced meals there. She's been working nonstop and stressed. She came in with a cold sore on her mouth, which she gets when she's really, really stressed. She's been overworking in general. It's a busy season in her business right now. And I said, that's the problem. That's the thing that's going to move the needle. Not adding a hormone balancing supplement, but that's the sexy thing. We want the quick fix solutions. And she was like, you're right. I needed to hear that because that's where our brain goes. And that's where my brain went to when I'm having this acne flare, even up until this point. So two lessons I've learned through this journey with this recent skin flare up and that I've noticed and recognized in my clients is one, trusting the healing process and trusting your body wants to heal. And this is also where I say this with a caveat of making sure like you have the right support and the right knowledge of knowing you're going in the right path. So I'm not saying just blindly, expecting your body to heal itself without making any changes. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you got, let's say for my clients, for example, they're working with me. They're working with a professional who knows how to safely transition off birth control. They're working with someone who knows how to help them deeply heal their periods, their acne, their anxiety, their mood swings, etc. So, and we ran labs and we did a deep dive assessment. We uncovered what those deeper imbalances were about. So, trusting that they're doing the right things and that they have someone on their side to know when to pivot or when to stay the course. So, for all of these clients, I'm like, we are staying the course with this. And that's something I need to practice too of yes, retinol completely demolished my skin and I'm breaking out and that's really hard. What was my gut reaction when I stopped? I went and got a chemical peel. I was like, I need to get rid of these marks. I need to get rid of these actives. I want to get my skin back because of how I felt, because of how it made me not show up my business the way I wanted to, not show up on social media, feel self-conscious about things, not go to yoga classes like I normally would because I was embarrassed with my skin or I am embarrassed by my skin. I want to get my skin back. And TBD, I mean, I'm trusting my facialist on this one, but she said that she'd recommend a peel. We did that. But I don't know if that made things worse. I'm going to trust her as the expert. I'm going to trust the process like I would ask my clients to do. But we'll see. Maybe I'll record an update down the road. I hope it's better. So I'm just going to follow her advice and, try not to do my own research because that's really hard, which I guess that's another learning life lesson is not going down the rabbit hole of like researching because you're getting a lot of different opinions. So it's important to find a specialist who has your data and your skin, your symptoms, whatever it may be in your back corner. So trusting that once you have that expert support to help you heal if you need it and that you have the lab work and the data to back it up and the plan that you're on the right path and to stay consistent with that. And the other thing is not to jump to quick fixes to try and magically make it go away. Healing takes time. Okay. I'm a perfect example of that. Of it took me more than a year to clear my skin. And it was great. And then I added retinol and it just did not go well for me. So when you're back, you feel like you're back at square one, but I know I'm not. I know it's from the product and my skin is just recalibrating and I need to trust that my body wants to heal. And I need to trust the experts who are helping me with that. And I know that I know how to fix my skin from an internal perspective and I need to release control and let my esthetician take control of helping me from an external perspective. And that's important with acne. So, trusting the process, trusting the, experts in your corner, knowing when to look for experts. If you've been doing this on your own for a long time and you're still struggling, find the right expert support and interview them. Make for sure that it's the right fit for you. I worked with a lot of women who they worked with providers to help heal their hormones, but their approach is very different than what mine is. Very, very different. So that's why I very much stand behind the way that I practice and why I get my clients such good results. But the timeline looks different for everybody, right? So someone might heal their acne in 4 months. Someone like myself, they're one of the unfortunate people who it takes longer and it takes more patience. And that can be really freaking hard, really hard. The other thing I learned is, which I prefaced earlier, is not chasing perfectionism. So again, if I look back to my skin before I started retinol, I wish I had that skin. I should have been happy with that skin. Getting a breakout here and there is normal. I'm always going to have acne prone skin. People with acne are always going to have acne prone skin. That's the way our body talks to us. And I was chasing perfect skin. And I know that now. And I didn't know that at the time because I was so focused on, well, this means there's something wrong. Like perfectionism does not exist. And so whether it's acne, whether it's a skin condition, or whether it's periods, right? Or digestive symptoms, I want myself included, us all to work on viewing that as this is information. This is my body signaling something is wrong. And instead of jumping to the sexy things of like, what supplement do I need to do? What diet do I need to do? What, facial do I need to do to get rid of this? Looking at, okay, what's the true problem here? What's the unsexy stuff? Have I been stressed lately? Have I been, like not doing my mineral mocktails? Or have I been lax in my supplements? Have I not been taking care of myself? Have I been skipping meals, not nourishing myself? Or is this just something that's happening right now and this is normal, right? If you have one period that goes missing, get curious. Okay, what's going on there? Did you just come off birth control? We're comparing apples to oranges with that one, right? Because like your body needs time to recalibrate versus, okay, like if I normally have a regular period and this one was longer or a shorter cycle, what's going on there? So checking those things and not jumping to the sexy stuff right away because that's the easy button. And I get it. Like that was me, like with those chemical peels. It's like, let's do this. I want to get rid of this. And I do think that might have messed my skin up more and is causing this like purge that I'm having right now. So perfectionism doesn't exist with our health. And we're always going to have to be tweaking, right? Like I'm very open of like, I always run labs on myself multiple times a year. And so I want to transition into that of when my skin started flaring with retinol, it was pretty clear. And then I stopped retinol. I was like, okay, good. Like it cleared up right away last time, but then it came back. That's why I think maybe the facials did it, but I'm trying to take a step back and let my facial person take the wheel. But I was like, oh shit, well, now does it mean that something internal is off? So I ran some updated blood labs. Not all of those are back yet, but some of them are. And they actually look like one of the best they've ever been. Like they look pretty good. And then I ran a GI map and I just got that GI map back. And there's still some imbalances in there, but honestly, it looks better than it did the last one. So I definitely have some things to work on with that, but it's nothing crazy different from when I had clear skin. So that was also really confirming for me that it's the retinol. It's not something internal. And that's the power of having personalized lab data is what's going on. So again, are there things I can work on? Absolutely. Your health is ever evolving. There's always going to be things we can work on and we're not certain as we mentioned, we have to defy this perfectionism with our health of like the perfect blood labs, the perfect GI map. That's never going to happen. So that's where also, I need to practice what I preach, treat my own self like a client, be like, okay, what are the heavy hitters that we need to work on? So for me, I know that it's stress support, stress management, because that impacts my stomach acid, that impacts my minerals. And those are two things that I really need to work on. I need to continuously replenish my minerals because those are really low from years of not taking care of myself and having all these imbalances and being on birth control. And I need to work on my stomach acid. So I'm going to make some tweaks to my supplements, that I take to help with that. But overall, this confirmed I'm not back to square one. So that was really helpful. My labs are looking pretty good. So that was really helpful. And when clients come to me, a big fear they have is like, well, what if my labs are normal? And I can quite honestly say I've never seen that happen. Never. And if I do, they're like a unicorn and I will let people know. But I've never seen that happen. I do different labs and I look at them from a much different angle than other providers. So, not have that happen. And we usually find the opposite where there's so much going on. It can sometimes be overwhelming. And that can be weirdly comforting. It can be overwhelming, but it can be comforting of like, okay, like there are things in my control that I can work on. So, for me, for this round, it was comforting in the opposite end of like, okay, it's comforting to know that it's not just something terribly wrong inside now and it's looking pretty good. So once my skin topically gets under control, it should be back to normal, right? And I that goes back to another point of just taking time and being patient and trusting the process. Doing what I can do to control it, but then trusting other supports in my life and trusting my body that it knows how to heal. So if you're someone who is in the same boat with me, whether it's acne flaring, whether it's missing periods, in general after stopping birth control, a painful period here or there, or you've been struggling with chronic period pain, whatever the case is, I want you to know that I see you. I know how tough that can be. And having the right support is so important. And for my own journey, it was important for me to share this, to be vulnerable about this, to not hide behind a filter, and to share the lessons I learned because I know so many of you can benefit from that. And I know a lot of you are in the same place as me with different aspects of your healing journey, different symptoms, different places along the way. But this all goes to show we're all connected and I'm right there with you. And I'm a provider who gets it. That's why I do what I do and why I care so deeply about my clients and their results and helping them feel better and getting to the root of things. And this is a messy part of my journey. This is a really messy part of my journey that I was really scared to share, but it was very cathartic saying it out loud. And I know that people are going to resonate with me with it. And I hope that it helps someone. I hope it empowers someone to continue through their journey, through the messy parts, through the high parts, through the low parts, through the clean parts. Or I hope it inspires someone to start their journey, whether that's reaching out to me for support or whether that is, you know, whatever it is that they need in that moment to do the things, whether it's talking to their partner about them taking more or with the kids so that they can have more time to themselves to manage stress, or whether it's committing to getting grocery pickup every single week so they can have nutritious food in the house, whatever it means for you. Inspiring you that this isn't going to be a perfect journey. It's not going to be pretty. Maybe for a small percentage it's smooth sailing, but for most of the time it's not. And I'm a good example of that. And I want to be an example for clients with that. And I want to share that I get it. And that's important to me. And again, I respect other people who share their truth and who share their journey and the messiness of it. I respect them so much more than someone who just has perfect skin all the time, never has issues. Like, people can spot that, and I personally, I don't vibe with that. I again want to work with someone who understands it and who gets it and can relate. So if you're struggling with that, you know, I'm here to support you. This community is here to support you. There are so many other women going through the same thing with you, and it will get better. So I know that I will be sharing an update down the road with even more wisdom as I go through this journey. And I wanted to share it in this time when I was just feeling raw and vulnerable and emotional about it. And I'm not going to lie, I started this episode being like, I'm probably going to cry. And that would have been okay if I cried. Like, I always tell my clients, like, if you need to cry in a session, like, please do. Like, that's important. I want you to feel safe enough for me to do that. And that's not weird. And that will help you feel better. And that will help you move through that emotion. So if I cried, I was open to that. I knew going into this I might. And I would probably not want to do that, but I might. But this almost felt like journaling for me of like getting it out there. Just, I keep saying raw and real, but like that's just how I feel. Like I just feel like I laid it all on the table and hopefully it was able to help somebody. So I know I always end with how I'm nourishing myself, and I'm going to do that again today because I'm being very intentional about this. As part of my plan, I'm actually going to make myself a protocol to stick with because I want to, that's helpful for me to treat myself like a client again in this new phase of my healing. But I really am going to intentionally focus on stress support. So today is Friday and it's kind of a weird week, couple weeks for me. I dropped him off the airport today. He has a work trip. So I am going to take the opportunity. I will miss him, but I am going to take the opportunity to really intentionally slow down. I got a book from the library, like a fun book, not a self help book or an educational book. And I have some plans with friends coming up. I'm getting coffee with a girlfriend tomorrow. I'm going to do my sauna, my acupressure mat, go to bed early. I'm just going to do all the nourishing things because after the past couple weeks I've had where my nervous system has just been on high alert, has been freaking out about my skin, has just been going through a lot of emotional ups and downs, I really need that. And so that is how I'm nourishing myself. And if you like this episode, I would love to hear if you want more of these. I mean, I hope that I'm not going through this a lot. If it's helpful for you, I'm happy to share more personal updates. Again, I will plan on sharing. I know that I will get out of this and my skin will heal. And I will give an update here, hopefully in a couple of months. And by next year, hopefully I'll be back where I started. Or if not, I'll be heading in that direction, feeling much, much better. So thank you so much for listening. And until next time, stay nourished, friends.